Bismillah, Alhamdulillah, wassalatu ala Rasulillah. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونتوكل عليه. ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. Indeed, all the praises and blessings are for Allah. We ask His forgiveness, we seek His help, and return to Him in forgiveness. Whoever Allah guides, none can send astray. Whoever Allah sends astray, none can guide. And we bear witness that Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the messenger of Allah. We begin by reciting from Surah An-Nisa, just repeating, mentioning the verse from Surah An-Nisa, where Allah addresses mankind in general and says, "O people, O mankind, ittaqullah, be conscious of Allah. الذي خلق منها الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة. Be mindful of Allah who created you from a single soul, and from that soul created its mate, and from them two created a multitude of men and women. Be conscious of Allah, the one in whom you seek your rights, because we wrong each other, and we seek your rights through Allah. And arham, and relatives, the blood ties between you. Be conscious of that. Do not break the blood ties. Keep blood ties. Indeed, Allah is a watcher over all of you. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All you who believe, now Allah addresses the believers. Ittaqullah. Be conscious of Allah. وَلَا تَمُوتُنَّ إِلَّا وَأَنْتُمْ مُسْلِمُونَ. Do not die except that you're in a state of you're Muslims, in the state of Iman. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطيع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Again, Allah says to the believers, ittaqullah, be conscious of Allah, be mindful if you do this towards Allah. وَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا, and say a word that is clear and straight and to the point and correct. Allah will forgive your sins and improve your state. Indeed, whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger has attained great success. Today is the 10th of Muharram, where Muharram is one of the sacred months. Allah says that the correct deen with Him, or before that, Allah says that indeed the number of months with Allah is 12. Of those 12, 4 are sacred. This is the true deen. Allah made those months sacred for a certain reason. Sacred in the sense that there are certain things cannot be done in this month. For example, you should not fight in this month, except if you're fought against and you defend yourself, it's permissible. But certain things are forbidden in these months. And the bad deeds you do are worse than in other months. And the good deeds you do are better than in other months. So whoever can should use these months to their advantage. Ramadan is a separate month. Ramadan is not one of the sacred months. The most people think Ramadan is sacred. Ramadan is not a sacred month in that sense. But Allah mentions, it's mentioned in the Sunnah, in the Hadith, that these months are Rajab, which comes before Ramadan, Rajab, Sha'ban, Ramadan, Rajab, and then 3 are together. We have Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and Muharram. So Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, those are the months, the Hajj seasons. So people can travel to Hajj in peace and go back in peace. So 1 month before Hajj, a month after Hajj. So Muharram literally means something which is made sacred, something which is made forbidden, or things in it are sacred, or certain things are forbidden. Right? And of course we should, like all other sacred months, we should increase our ibadah. Right? The Dhul-Hijjah is special, and more special, because the first 10 days of Dhul-Hijjah are the most blessed days with Allah for doing good deeds. So Dhul-Hijjah has a certain advantage over other months. And there's a day, of course, in Dhul-Hijjah, the 9th of Dhul-Hijjah, when you fast, the day of Arafah, and those who fast on that day, Allah forgives the sins for a previous year and the coming year. In Muharram, we have another bonus. We're in the 10th of Muharram, which is today by some calendars, where you fast on this day, Allah will forgive your sins for 1 year. Right? But the Prophet ﷺ fasted this month for a special reason. When he made the hijrah and came to Medina, he found the Jews fasting on the 10th of Muharram. So he inquired as to what they were doing. Why were they fasting this day? And they mentioned that, well, it's a day in which Allah granted Musa victory over Fir'aun. Right? So they fasted. Musa fasted that day in a way of saying thanks to Allah, being thankful to Allah. And then the Yahud followed after him. Well, they're Muslims in the sense that they believe the Prophet, they believe they upheld the Tawheed, and they believe the Prophets, and they follow him, so they're Muslims. But they're called Bani Israel because of their relation to Yaqub alayhi salam. So the Prophet said, well, we have more right to Musa. So he ordered the believers to fast that day, and this was before Ramadan was made an obligatory fast. So this day was an obligation for Muslims to fast. Later on, the Prophet said, whoever wants to leave fasting this day can do it. In other words, it's an optional fast. But because of the benefits of this day, then most people fast this day. Again, it's a bonus from Allah, so why not fast it? It is also said that Nuh alayhi salam was given victory over the people. I mean, Allah drowned the people and saved Nuh alayhi salam. So in that sense, it's a victory, because he was saved from punishment. The believers with Nuh alayhi salam were saved, and on the day on which they disembarked from the ship, from the boat that he built, they said it was the 10th of Muharram. So it's the same day that Musa was given victory over Fir'aun, according to the reports. So we fast this day. And the sunnah, of course, is to fast a day before or a day after, to differ from Yahud. Right? So for those following the North American calendar, today's the 10th. So you could have fasted yesterday. If you didn't, then you can fast tomorrow. Make it 10th and 11th. Right? The idea is to fast the 10th of Muharram, the day before or a day after, if you can. Now Allah accept it from us. Allahumma salli wa sallam baraka ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa tabi'ahu bi ihsan ila yawm al-din. This is today's Friday, Yawm al-Jumm'ah. It's a day in which we increase the salawat to the Prophet alayhi salam. So every chance you get to say salawat to the Prophet, do it. Today's Friday. It's a bonus. Now we come to a special occasion that happened on the 10th of Muharram, which led to a great division within the Ummah. A division in a negative sense, because what happened was negative, and the result afterwards was negative. And to this day, we are feeling and seeing the repercussions of that event. It's a day in which the Prophet's beloved grandson, Sayyidina Hussein, and his family was massacred. It's a day which anyone reading the story will be very much affected by it. Not to say that, I mean, it is a coincidence that it happened this day, and we're not fasting because of Imam Hussein, radiallahu anhu, of his martyrdom or the struggle that he went through, and his family and the companions. No, that's not the reason why we're fasting. We just mentioned the reason why we're fasting. So that no one can go away with the intention, with the understanding that we're fasting because of Sayyidina Hussein. No, that's not why we're fasting. But it is worth mentioning, and it is worth reflecting on the events that led to Sayyidina Hussein's martyrdom and his family and companions. We begin by looking back at a couple of decades before that. And what we saw happening was the Khulafa al-Rashideen. The Prophet ﷺ prophesied that it would be Khulafa al-Rashideen for 30 years, and afterwards there will be a monarchy. And the Khulafa al-Rashideen, as we well know, was Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, and Al-Hassan ibn Ali. And for the most part, of course, it's the first four. And then Al-Hassan's reign was for maybe 6 months. There wasn't much in it, but it's part of the 30 years. But what we see happening here is fitna in the Muslim Ummah. The time, during the time of Umar, there's a lot of expansion of Islam in the Islamic State, a lot of conquest, and Islam was spread all over. And Muslims enjoyed a great time in terms of people come to the deen and the spread of Islam and the good things that happened. That was great. Under Uthman, radiallahu anhu, it also continued. But Uthman was also a very old person. He's one of the oldest. You know, he appointed people in positions that he trusted, that people that were close to him, basically. And some people did not agree with his appointments as far as appointing governors and judges and you know, the political setup, the governments, you know, we're talking about here. And you know, he was advised, and he did whatever he did, and but some people were not happy with the situation, and unfortunately they took it to another level, which ended in the slaughter of Uthman radiallahu anhu. These were not necessarily people from Medina, these were people from elsewhere, from Egypt and elsewhere. They came, maybe about 6,000 strong. They came and they to complain to you know, about the situation that was happening in their lands, about the unrighteousness of the people that were ruling them and stuff like that. And they wanted to force Uthman's hand to make changes. And Uthman, radiallahu anhu, did not budge. He thought he was doing the right thing, and that was his decision. And but unfortunately, the people of Medina were overwhelmed. They didn't realize that these people were so bad as to actually wanted to kill the Khalifa, and they did. And they killed Uthman, radiallahu anhu. But the Prophet ﷺ told us before that whatever deficiencies people might have mentioned or seen in Uthman's rule, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned before that whatever Uthman does from this day on is nothing. In other words, whatever bad or not so good things that are mistakes Uthman made from this day on, it doesn't count. And this is the time when Uthman radiallahu anhu had fitted the army. He was the battle of Tabuk, the campaign of Tabuk, where Uthman you know, fitted the army and provided the army with the resources. And after the Prophet said that whatever Uthman does from this day on is nothing. He can do whatever he wants, basically, you know. So Uthman is free from any mistakes or that he might have made. He's a human being, of course. But these people, they did what they did, a terrible act. They did what they did. Now, at the time, the people came to Ali radiallahu anhu and wanted him to be the Khalifa. He refused, but they dragged him to the mosque and gave bay'ah. So he became the Khalifa. And the first thing he wanted to do, now the Ummah was like in a state of array, chaos. Because Uthman was killed, and these people came from elsewhere, 6,000 strong, whatever. They demanded, they killed Uthman, and there was chaos in Medina at that time. So Ali radiallahu anhu, to him, the first thing to do was to get the state in order, and then look into the death of Uthman, the murder of Uthman radiallahu anhu. Word got to Syria, Damascus, where Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu anhu had been the governor for 20 years. He ruled very well. He had a strong army, mashallah. Things was good. Things were good. But word got to Muawiyah radiallahu anhu that his cousin Uthman was slaughtered, had been killed. And Islam, you know, the one that has the position to take revenge for a wrong done to you has the right to do so within a certain limit, you know. But he has the right to seek revenge, whether it's the blood money or the sauce or, you know, retribution, you know, light punishment, whatever it is. He has the right to do that. So Muawiyah saw fit that he was because he had a high position, he was governor and he had a great army. He saw fit to go to Medina in the state of the chaos, to go to Medina with his army and straighten things out, find the killers of Uthman radiallahu anhu. But so he refused to give the bay'ah to Ali, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, because of this matter. He said, I'll wait until, give me the chance to find these killers, and then I give the bay'ah. And then Ali radiallahu anhu said, no, you know, I'm the Khalifa, you know, everyone should give bay'ah. You know, they're all done except you, this is not acceptable. This will lead to fitna, you know. So there's a standoff, you know, and in the course of the waiting to see what would happen, so at night, some people actually, when I mean, it is not to be understood to be a war between Ali and Muawiyah, it is not to be understood like that. There were bad people the bad people who had killed Uthman, and, you know, they had joined the army of Ali, you know. So how could Ali find those people exactly who had killed Uthman? It was very difficult. And the people of Muawiyah, there was Sahaba amongst them too, in both camps. They, of course, did not come to fight the Sahaba. They came to find the killers of Uthman and take retribution. But in the middle of the night, this is before the fighting started, in the middle of the night, some people from Muawiyah's group attacked some people from the Ali's camp. And then the battle started. And then it was the great disaster happened. And many righteous people were killed on both sides. And then there was peace. When Al-Hassan told his father not to fight, not to, you know, to be engaged in battle, you know. But Ali did not listen to his son's advice, because he thought, you know, he's the state and he has the right to defend the state, which is the current position. But after what happened, and they saw so many people saw the Muslims being killed, he came back and told his son that, you know, you were right, you know, I should have listened to you. But so there was a truce between the two camps. And during that truce, you know, they made, you know, there's no more war per se, but Muawiyah and his Hamir were still there. But during that time, they killed the Khawarij, those who were against both camps, right? And they did some evil things against the Muslims. They had this plan to kill Sayyidina Ali and Sayyidina Muawiyah and Amr ibn al-As in Egypt. And they killed Ali, and Muawiyah, I think, was hurt, and Amr ibn al-As was escaped. One of the two escaped or was hurt, but Ali radiallahu anhu was killed by these Khawarij, right? Who were his supporters at first, and then they turned against him. So, and of course, Ali had moved to Kufa because of the Masjid Medina. They had moved to Iraq, and were there. So he was killed, radiallahu anhu. And then Al-Hassan was made the Khalifa. And then Al-Hassan looked at the positions, and the two arms were getting ready to fight again. And he said, you know, this is not good. So he gave the position of Khalifa, and he gave it to Muawiyah radiallahu anhu to avoid bloodshed, avoid more bloodshed. And that's a very honorable thing he did, and the Prophet Islam prophesied about it, that he will make the peace between two great groups of Muslims. And he did, by relinquishing the claim to the Khalifa. He was a Khalifa himself. He gave it up. And thus ended the 30 years of the Khulafa Rashidin. And then Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu anhu ruled for another 20 years. He was a great and a righteous ruler. But in the later years, and there was peace in Medina, peace in Mecca, peace everywhere, there's no problems. But towards the end of Muawiyah's term, he felt it was necessary to make his son Yazid the Khalifa. So he took Yazid around to different places, Medina, Mecca, elsewhere, and tried to get the Sahaba and others to make the bay'ah to Yazid. In other words, when he passes away, they should give bay'ah to Yazid. Again, they were just talking, and some agreed to it, and some didn't agree. But again, nothing was done at that time because you had a Khalifa, Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was still alive. But when Muawiyah passed away, and Yazid became the Khalifa, some of the Muslims gave the bay'ah to him. Some of the prominent ones gave bay'ah to him, others didn't. Among those that didn't, we had Al-Hussein radiallahu anhu. Al-Hussein did not give the bay'ah. He was in Medina, and others were in Medina. Abdullah ibn Zubayr, they were in Medina as well, and they refused to give the bay'ah because he said Yazid was not a righteous person. Muawiyah radiallahu anhu was Sahabi, was a righteous man, but his son was not. And in their opinion, there are many better people in Medina and Mecca who deserved the Khalifa, who were in a better position to be the Khalifa. So several of the prominent Sahaba did not give the bay'ah. So when it was at first they refused, and then it became clear that the governor was given strict instructions to deal very harshly with those who did not give the bay'ah. So Abdullah ibn Zubayr left by night. He left to Mecca. Abdullah ibn Zubayr is Aisha radiallahu anha, nephew. The nephew of Aisha radiallahu anha, Abdullah ibn Zubayr. Right? So he fled to Mecca, and Al-Hussein radiallahu anhu also did the same thing. When he heard that they were coming for him, he also fled with his family, and he went to Mecca. But the people he was advised by companions and friends in Medina not to take this position against Yazid. In other words, he was advised to take the bay'ah like them, but he refused. He went to Mecca. While in Mecca, he received many reports, many letters of request from Kufa, Iraq, calling him to become the Khalifa, telling him to come to Kufa, to Iraq, so they could give the bay'ah to him. But they refused to give the bay'ah to Yazid because they're a funny group. They supported Ali radiallahu anhu, but they also were responsible for some of them, the Khawarij who were still there, responsible for his death. But there were some people there, and they were saying that they were 100,000 strong, and they were ready to stand with him, with the sword and defend his Khilafah. Now, the Sahaba, the great Sahaba, Abdullah ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Umar, and others, advised Sayyidina Hussein not to go there. He said, those people, you can't trust them. They support your father, and then they turn against him. And the same is going to happen to you. So they're not trustworthy. Don't go there. But Sayyidina Hussein saw in a dream, he saw the Prophet in a dream, telling him that he should continue on his trip. And there are other details of the dream that we don't have to mention right now, but Imam Hussein thought that this was the great, that he had no option but to continue on his path, which was to go to respond to the call to become the Khalifa. Now, the other group of Muslims called Shia, they like to say, or like to emphasize that it was Sayyidina Hussein and his family. Yes, it was Sayyidina Hussein and his family, but who was his family? Who was his family? Who were these people? These were the sons and the grandsons of the Sahaba. Sons and the grandsons of the Sahaba. Because they were a very close-knit group. They intermarried. The daughter of Umar was married to Ali, the daughter of Ali was married to Umar, and they had children. So to think that this Imam Hussein went with his family, meaning Ahlul Bayt, it is correct in the sense that it was his family. But who were his family? There were the grandsons and the sons and the granddaughters of the Sahaba. Not just from the immediate family of Ali and Fatima, but others. And they're in the 70s. The number's about in the 70s. Some say 72, something like that. But it was a group of people from the immediate family of Prophet ﷺ, the immediate family, and others of the Sahaba and their children. So Sayyidina Hussein sent his cousin, Muslim ibn Aqil. Aqil was Ali's brother, so Muslim ibn Aqil became his cousin. He sent him there to see what was going on. So he went to Muslim went to Iraq, and he saw that the people were, at first they were with Imam Hussein, and they were waiting for him. In fact, they thought maybe he was Imam Hussein, or somebody else was with him. They thought he was Imam Hussein, because they were dying for him to come. But in the course of maybe a year or less than that, they flipped. They were bought out by the governor, Abdullah Dillon. He bought him out, and all those people that were in favor of Imam Hussein being the Khalifa, they flipped. And they became against a Muslim, and they had him killed. Muslim was killed, and well, he was executed, but the manner in which they did it was very nasty. I mean, he was taken to the roof and executed, and his head was thrown down, and his body was thrown down from the roof. So this hurt Imam Hussein and the people very much, of course, when they heard that. But Muslim ibn Aqil, before he passed away, he asked someone to send a message to Imam Hussein saying that the people have flipped, don't come. But it was too late. Sayyidina Hussein was, and the group was already on their way to Kufa, halfway to Kufa. It was too late. And the Muslim ibn Aqil tried before he was executed. And he thought he was trying, he said, what's this? You've been fighting as a mujahid and blah, blah, and now you want to cry in the sight of death? He said, no, I'm not crying because I'm going to die. I'm crying because you have betrayed Ali Hussein, and I know what awaits them. Because what you're going to do with me right now, you'll do the same to them. Anyway, so he, radiallahu anhu, was executed. Sayyidina Hussein and the group marched towards Kufa, but they stopped at Karbala. And Karbala is in the south of Baghdad today. In the south, away from Baghdad. Right? So they stopped there. And two groups of people came. And initially, one group came. It was this small group of soldiers came from a group led by Umar ibn Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas is one of the 10 people from Jannah, and he was the leader of the hero of the war of Qadisiyah when Muslims conquered Persia or Iran. So Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was a great general who was known for that. His son Umar was a general in the army of Yazid, and he was in Iraq. Now a group of people went from his either from his area of his command or from Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad to stop Sayyidina Hussein from reaching to Kufa. And there wasn't any fight per se, but they were told to stick with them and do not let them enter Kufa. So they traveled with them some time. In fact, when it came to Salah, Sayyidina Hussein led both groups within Salah, his own people and the people who came to stop him. I mean, they didn't have any objections to him leading the Salah, because they all knew who Sayyidina Hussein was. But the governor of Kufa at that time, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad, was not satisfied with just that. He wanted more. He wanted blood, basically. When they came to Sayyidina Hussein to stop him, he said, look, I was called. I'm coming here not to fight anyone. I'm coming here because the people asked me to come to be their Khalifa, and I'm responding to that. That's all. Now, if you want, you can give me one of three options. You can let me go back to Mecca, or you can let me go and fight at the border to defend Islam, or let me go see Yazid. The Yazid mentioned here is not very clear. Is it Yazid the Khalifa or Yazid, another Yazid in the area? But in any case, they refused. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad refused. In other words, he wanted to humiliate Sayyidina Hussein and all the people who came with him. He refused, and he asked them to give the bay'ah to him. In other words, give the bay'ah to Yazid by giving the bay'ah to him, giving this oath of allegiance to him. Of course, Sayyidina Hussein refused to do that because what he saw in the Khilafah was evil. He did not see a righteous person, neither in many of the Sahaba, did not see a righteous person in Yazid. So he refused to give the bay'ah. And the options that he outlined to them was, let me go back to Mecca, or let me go to the border and fight to defend Islam, or let me go to see this Yazid. They refused. And then they started fighting. The other group attacked. And of course, the Muslims had to defend themselves. Sayyidina Hussein had to defend themselves against other Muslims. 9th of Muharram, it happened. The Sayyidina Hussein, spent times worship, making tahajjud, fasting, praying and making dua and spending time with his family and giving them advice. Because he thought the time was near. Come 10th of Muharram, they were fasting on this day, 10th of Muharram. And many atrocities took place. Many atrocities. The books of history that we accept as a reliable source have some very terrible details about what happened. But it suffices to say that Sayyidina Hussein came out, and he was there, and all his companions, all his the sons and grandsons of the Sahaba, and Ahlul Bayt, the males of the immediate family of the Prophet ﷺ, his children. And look at his children's name. Look at his children's name. He had a son called Abu Bakr, a son called Umar, and a son called Uthman. So to say that Abu Bakr hated the Sahaba, Sayyidina Hussein hated the Sahaba, is such a big lie. If you hate the Sahaba, why are you calling your sons by their names? And he had a son called Abu Bakr, a son called Umar, and a son called Uthman. They're all killed. They're all slaughtered. It was a massacre. Right? And of course, when they were all killed and Sayyidina Hussein was on his horse, he was the last one standing, and of course women were behind, did not participate in the fight. But the people who were fighting them stopped. No one had it in his heart to deliver the final blow. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. They stood around him, and no one had the heart to deliver the final blow. Until someone, may Allah punish him, stabbed him, and he fell from his horse. And he came and chopped his head off. This was Sayyidina Hussein, the Prophet's grandson, and his family, who were massacred. Allah punished all those people involved in the massacre of the Muslims on that day, that fateful day, which we should never forget. Imam Hussein did not revolt against anyone. Imam Hussein was responding to a call to be the Khalifa. There's nothing wrong with that. He did not fight against anyone. The war, the fight was brought to him, and he defended himself. And to show you how those people were evil and cruel, he gave them options. Look at the options that he gave them. Let me go back to my family. Let me go back to Mecca.